Hi there, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to be scrapbooking this photo of my daughter. She loves to do facial masks and she typically does them with this oatmeal mask that we get from Lush. But on this particular occasion, she discovered a mask that I had actually bought her. It's a very inexpensive mask from the drugstore. And she thought that she wasn't interested in it. It was called hot chocolate. And what she didn't realize is that it actually heats up on your face. And so she put it on her face because she had run out of her favorite oatmeal facial mask. And then when it got hot on her face, she loved it. And she only wants to use this kind of facial mask now, which is great because it's much less expensive. She was using my oatmeal, more expensive face mask, which I never use, so she might as well use it. Anyhow, I wanted to make my background be out of plain cardstock, so I just went over to my stash here. This is a complete stash layout. Nothing is new on this page. It's all from my older. Some of it is newer than others, but I'll try to remember what's what and let you know as I go with the narration. So I am going to do a pink background. I chose two different colors and I ended up going with the lighter of the two. And I'm going to do some mixed media on this. So I wanted to, first of all, I'm going to use this sketch, which is from our 27-day challenge group on Facebook. This summer, Mo is doing extra challenges, and one of them this month or this summer is to use one of several sketches that she has. This particular sketch is designed by Laura Whitaker, who makes beautiful sketches, so you can check out her website. I will leave the link in the information section below. So this is from our challenge, and you can check out our challenge group. It's at the end of it's in the information section. I also talk about it at the end of each video, or I put it up on the screen. And so the challenge this month, the 27-day challenge, is actually not to use this sketch, but I'm going to combine the two. The 27-day challenge is to use a vertical element, one circle, two pictures, pattern paper with flowers, and a die cut or a cut file. So I only have one photo here, but I'm actually going on the internet right now and searching up. I grabbed another, I didn't have the exact kind that she had used, but I had another one in the bathroom, so I just pulled it out so I could remember the brand name. It's Seventh Heaven. So I'm just going online and I'm searching up Seventh Heaven hot chocolate, and that is giving me a couple of different images, actually many images. And so I'm just saving it to my desktop, and then I guess I'm refining my search there. At first, I just searched for Seventh Heaven and I didn't find enough of it. But I think that the facial mask has like a fun design to it. So ideally, I would like to include the wrapper, but she did this mask quite a long time ago. So the wrapper's long gone. I would have liked to have cleaned it off and just, tucked it in behind my photo like it is right now. And so I'm trying to actually print it up at the same size that it is right now. But I'm going to change my mind about that. I need a second photo in order to meet this challenge. And so it ends up being good that I didn't have an extra copy of the wrapper, because I am going to just print up a photo of the wrapper. And they had it was online in the exact same shape as the packaging itself. And so I think that's kind of cool. And I'm just going to cut it out like this. As you can see, I printed it quite a bit smaller than the actual full size of the wrapper. I like that because it allows the photo to take center stage on this page instead of having something be so competing alongside the photo. This is nice and small. And you might notice, I didn't, but you might notice that I actually printed up the wrong, this is not hot chocolate, this is chocolate mud mask. And it's going to be until almost the end before I figure out that I've been working with the wrong photo all along. But just be patient with me. I'll figure it out eventually. So this is a stencil from istencil.com. The brand is Badass Stencils, and I adore these. The people who own istencils.com sent me a bunch of stencils. They were so generous. And I still have not had a chance to make a video. I actually made a video and then the footage became corrupt. I'm having some trouble with my computer. And so I have to refilm that. Anyhow, what I'm showing you here is that I do plan to use mixed media. And what I do is whenever I buy a new base. Like I'm showing you here, modeling paste by both Liquitex and Golden, and there's a couple of different options. I just always smear a sample of what I've bought onto this green piece of cardstock, and that allows me to know what everything looks like when it's dry. I don't use mixed media so often that I remember exactly all the details of how each product is different from the other, and you by all means do not need to have this many base products in your stash. I just have this many because I do videos and I like to compare and contrast, and so I have a bunch of stuff in my stash. So this helps me to keep it straight. If you really only need one, either embossing paste or molding paste or whatever you want to buy, just buy one of them, unless if you're really into mixed media. What I'm deciding to go with is Golden Heavy Matte Gel, which is actually not necessarily used for using with stencils. Of course, you can use it with stencils, which is what I'm doing, but it's more of a mixed media supply that you can use as a glue. So you can glue things down with it and do collage, and also paint over products with it, like images or things that you've put on an art journal page. And then it just kind of, it basically is a really, really good collage medium. Right here, I'm using it to create a resist with my stencil. So it's not going to dry white. It's going to dry to like a shiny surface. It's not matte, but it's shinier than the paper. Sorry, it is matte. It's not glossy, but it is certainly glossier than the paper is. So it's going to provide a little bit of interest, but not necessarily a whole lot of texture. It's not going to be raised up off of the paper as much as if I had used some molding paste. I'm actually putting it on quite thick, and so it is going to have some texture to it as far as dimension goes. As you can see, you can really see the texture there, as well as the difference in the kind of glossiness of the paper. So again, that's Heavy Gel Matte Medium, and it's by Golden, and Liquitex makes a really, really similar product. And I chose heavy because this stencil has a lot of intricate lines on it, and if I had chosen a less thick product, so I also have medium matte gel, and that is just a little bit less thick, and the problem with that is that it might have smeared under the edges of my stencil a little bit more than this, so I just chose one of my heavier products to use. You saw me just pull the stencil off of the page, and I just cleaned up a little bit, and then I put the cardstock back down on my palette so that I can dry it a little bit more with my heat gun. I had already dried the first part of the stenciling, and now I'm just focusing more on the second part of the stenciling. And this stencil doesn't line up exactly for repeating a pattern, but it doesn't really matter because so much of this is going to be covered. It's going to add a subtle pattern on my background. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave that off to the side and let it dry, but I'm going to use this extra piece of cardstock just to hold the space while I design the scrapbooking part of this page. So the mixed media part is over there drying, and then I'm just going to do the pattern paper part of this project. So I grabbed my pink scrap drawer, and I'm really trying to use my scraps at this point in my scrappy career. And so I have some tickets in there. I believe this is a Scraptastic paper and a couple of other Hip Kit papers and other things. I'm pulling out lots and lots of soft pinks because I want there to be a lot of contrast between that really rich, muddy look on her face, and then I want everything else to be very soft and picking up on the pink in her hair wrap. I love this paper. I'm not going to use it, but I'm thinking I might want to use it. So it's the pink in her hair wrap that's really guiding my color choices here. And there's a piece of paper that has brown and pink on it, so I'm pulling that out as well. But pink is really going to be the main color of this with some brown accents, which is a really different color scheme for me. It's a beautiful color scheme. I really love pink and brown together. So here I am. I'm thinking about how I'm going to follow this sketch, and I want to use a piece of floral pattern paper. That's part of what the 27-day challenge calls for. So I'm going to use this one. I'm pretty sure it's a Scraptastic. No, it's actually not. It's American Crafts. I don't know what brand of American Crafts it's from, but I can see the little the little manufacturer's strip, and it does say American Crafts. These are just regular coupons. They're not scrapbooking supplies. They're just tickets that I got from somewhere. I don't know where exactly. And I just stuck them in with my pink craft, or my pink scraps. Now this paper, I really love this. I believe it's Dear Lizzie, and I'm going to, that's the problem with using your scraps, is I don't know what everything is. So I want to cut a large circle out of it, but all of my punches are actually a little bit too small. So I'm going to use my circle cutter here with my glass mat. And this circle cutter is by EK Success. It's called a curvy cutter, and it has this cutting device that slips into tracks. There are various tracks, and you can cut outside or inside of the circle. And there's another circle template that comes with this as well. And you can also cut ovals with this, but I don't have the oval templates. And then you just kind of basically find where you want your blade to go, and then you just circle it around. It's really, really easy. And so there I have a circle now that's quite a bit bigger than my biggest punch, which is 3 inches. That circle looks more like about a 4-inch circle. And I have this P-shaped design on my page now. And so now I've used at least one circle. I've used one vertical element. I've got 2 pictures on there. And what's the other thing? I've got a floral pattern paper on there as well. So the only thing that I have left to, here's my vertical element, going to be glued right onto my pattern paper, my floral pattern paper. And I'm just aligning everything kind of off to the left here, so that it's sort of not exactly, you'll see that the tickets are wider at the top than they are at the bottom, but they're still lined up over to the left. And I'm going to add my photo over there as well. And I'm just outlining in brown. As opposed to black, I'm using a Zig 2-way writer. Actually, I think it's just called a Zig writer. And going to glue that circle onto the rectangle. And not sure what I'm going to put below the photo. I could put some journaling there. And I just don't want to forget to use these beautiful arrows. I love the craft background that those arrows are on, so I'm just cutting that off now so I don't forget about it. And now I'm thinking about adding a mat here, a dark brown mat, and this just happens to be wood veneer, but I'm really just looking for something dark brown, and I'm trying this look out. I'm not going to end up liking it, but I wanted to try it out just to see. And basically this adds a little bit of contrast around the outside edges of the photo, but I don't like it because it's adding contrast in a way that I don't want. Like it's going to compete. I want her face to be your main focus, and that brown mat was just too similar to the color of the brown on her face that it was pulling your eye in a place that over to a place that I just don't want your eye to be necessarily focusing. So I took that off, and it's okay to try things out like that. Don't worry about, messing up. Just give it a try, and if you don't like it, just pull it off like I just did. Now I'm back to using my TriArt palette as my background here because I'm going to do some mixed media on top of my mixed media background that I created using the stencil. And I haven't used Distress Oxide too much, so I wanted to use it on this particular page for that reason. And so I grabbed my only 2 pink Distress Oxides that I have. One of them is Picked Raspberry, the darker one, and the lighter one is Worn Lipstick. And I'm just practicing. I noticed when I was going through my scraps in my pink drawer that I had this piece of pattern of cardstock that's exactly the same shade as the background that I did my mixed media on. So this allows me to practice I haven't used Distressed Oxides with a blender yet, so I just wanted to see how much will they move out. And I know that they react with water, but I just wanted to see how they will work with sprinkled water and sopping it up and really kind of pulling up that color. And so I have my blending tool there and just playing around. It doesn't spread out quite as much as I thought it would. It's really creamy consistency, so you can spread it out a lot. But I'm glad that I practiced just to kind of get a hang of it. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm starting the ink application on the part of the page that is covered by the photos and the pattern paper. And isn't this beautiful? You see this just come to life, the shapes of that stencil. This is my favorite part of the process. And I didn't get to see it from this angle, so I'm appreciative of this. This is what I love about making process videos. I get to see the magic of scrapbooking twice, once when I do it and once when I look at it from a bird's eye view. So you see me just spreading the ink like that. So far I'm just using the worn lipstick. And basically, I just want it to be darkest in the center and work my way out. Now, the mixed media, the edges of that matte medium, where it's it creates a harsh edge where the stencil was, it's really chewing up my ink tool, but that's okay. Like the sponge applicator thing that you Velcro on to the blending tool. I'm just adding this other color of pink, the picked raspberry, just to add a little bit of extra dimension. Most of this is going to be covered, but I'm just playing. I'm having fun at this point. It doesn't matter whether you're going to see it or not. And I'm adding a little bit of extra color on the edges here because I'm getting the sense that a lot of this is going to be covered by the pattern paper and the photo. And so I just want there to be a little bit of extra ink kind of spreading out onto the page, not necessarily where the stencil is, but just surrounding the stenciled shape. And when I made that stenciled shape, I wasn't too careful about the edges. Like I didn't make them necessarily perfect. And so now I'm just I'm spraying water into my hand and then splattering it right onto the page. And that just lifts some of the ink. I'm doing it more and more because I really like how it looks. I want some in the parts where there is no stencil, especially. I really love how that looks. It's very subtle, but I'll stick in an extra picture here so you can see. So that's how it looks. I really love those. It almost looks like it's been splashed with bleach. I love that look. So now I just wanted more splashes and I wanted them smaller and in some specific places. And so that's why I took my paintbrush, and I don't love using a paintbrush for splatters, but I had it handy. And so I just grabbed it and used it in some of the corners. That's so pretty. I love how that looks. I'm just pointing out some of my favorite parts. They happen to be parts that will be covered, but I love how it looks. I'm going to try that on another project at some point. There I am, just taking that picture that I just showed you. There you go. And now you can see how I was planning actually on putting this whole pea-shaped cluster over to the right, over to the left a little bit more, but because of the way that my stenciling ended up landing on the page, I have to center it a little bit more than I had originally planned, but that's okay. It looks nice like this. It's still off center, which is good. I didn't want it to be centered. I'm referring back to that sketch just to keep myself on track, and it gives me a little bit of guidance, especially when I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm thinking about what's going to go here below the photo, and also thinking about where I'm going to use those arrows. I thought I just went into my die cuts. So die cut is the last part of the challenge that I haven't addressed yet. So went into my die cut stash, and these are, usually I sort my die cuts by color, but these are unsorted. These are from the Good Vibes collection from Crepe Paper, and they came in a hip kit. And I really love the pinks and the browns, and it gives me a chance to use some of that craft color that I was enjoying on the arrow strip. And so you see me here, I'm just layering a couple of things down here below the photo in that chunk of space on the pattern, on the floral patterned paper. And it fills up some of that. And I thought maybe I'd do some journaling on these lines on the pink journaling die cut piece. And I also layered another piece under there. It had a Good Vibes phrase on it, but I just like the texture from the hole punched side. And then I went into these Jen Hadfield die cuts that I also have. These came in a kit, in a Scrapbook and Cards Today kit. And I can't remember what collection they're from, but they're really pretty as well. And so I'm just grabbing this silhouette and a couple of gold butterflies from it. This silhouette head is really cute, especially where my layout is about a face. This is from the Good Vibes collection, this little tag. It offsets the other tag that's up in the top corner. So I'm using some repetition here. I've got a large butterfly in the top and a large tag in the top, and then I'm adding a small butterfly and a small tag in the bottom cluster. And let me zoom out so that you can see better what it is that I'm doing. And now I'm actually going to go and take a look at what letters I have to spell out the phrase muddy face is what I want to do. So I just set up my secondary camera so that you could take a look at how I search for letters when I'm scrapping from my stash. So I know I want brown, so I'm just going to bring over my whole selection of brown. Sometimes I just look through my Rascog and pick out a couple of pieces, but because I don't have, or a couple of sets of letters, but since I don't have too many brown to choose from, I just grabbed the whole bunch of them and brought them over. And this Amy Tangerine one is perfect. I was looking for a brown letter sticker that was going to have like a messy look that I could spell out the phrase muddy. And then my plan was to use a different font for the word face. But you know what? I love this font so much that I'm going to spell out both of them with this same font. And I don't use brown very much, so I like really using up these letter stickers when I have a chance to use them. So I'm just going to get rid of some of this extra waxed paper that I use, and it became clear pretty quickly that instead of putting the title where I originally planned to put it, it worked so much better right here under the photo. So that means I'm going to move that strip of the days of the week up to the top to balance off with it. I like that black element that introduces. It picks up on the black that's on the Keep This coupon tickets. It's really those are the only two places that there are black. So I want there to be more than one place. So I definitely want that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday die cut to be there. So now I'm just sticking down some of the pieces that I had already decided where they'll go. Just committing to this layout. And I thought for a minute there that I might actually flip this silhouette over and have it. I like the idea of it being beside the word face, like having a face beside. It's beside the word face here too, but I just liked it on the other side. And I thought about maybe doing something with the back side of it to make it look more finished, like I could ink it or put a pattern on it of some sort somehow. But I decided to just leave it this way. I like the pattern. It's like a very subtle wood grain pattern and I really like it. Now I zoom in incorrectly here, so I apologize for this. A good part of this is going to be off screen, so my apologies. I zoomed in the attempt to help you guys see more, and I ended up helping you see less, so sorry about that. And I just used the brown paper to help give me a little bit more contrast so I could see what I was doing there between the outline of the silhouette. It was blending in too much with my background. I'll zoom out in just a second. Sorry about that. I readjusted my Y so that I could, and I also added some pop dots onto the back of the silhouette. And now I'm going to layer the silhouette a little bit over the Y. I like how that looks. That gives me a little bit of a space below the word face, and I'm going to fill that in with this arrow that I had already decided I wanted to use somewhere. So this is as good a place as any for that. And I just needed to be a little bit thinner because it was covering up a little bit too much of that die cut paper. And this is nice. I was kind of laughing at the way that it looks like an arrow is kind of like the poor child is being speared by an arrow in its throat. So let's just pretend that that's not what's happening down there. I am sticking my second butterfly, and with butterflies, I like them to either look like they're afloat and all kind of going in different random directions, or if one of them is straight, I like them both to be straight. So the bottom one is straight, so I made the top one be straight as well. And now I just want this arrow piece to stick out a little bit further than the S in that Days of the Week die cut. Basically, I want the tag, the Days of the Week die cut, and the arrow piece to all be at different lengths on the far right-hand corner. That just adds a little bit of extra interest there. That's using a principle of alignment. So I'm trying to focus more on design principles as I work from my stash. And so we've got repetition and then we've got alignment. I don't want those edges all lining up. I want them to look a little bit different and add some interest over there on that far right-hand side. I'm going to pop up this secondary photo of the face mask. And I'm noticing now that I'm using the wrong picture of the face mask. So pardon me while I just find the right photo. And now I'm back with the right photo and I printed it up. It's almost the same size. I had to print it a couple times to get it to be the same size as the original piece because I had really already designed where all my embellishments were going to go. So I didn't want this reprinted picture to throw off my design. So I just printed it as closely as I could to the same size as the original one. And then because the original one already had the pop dots on the back of it, instead of wasting those, I just decided to glue my new, and they're exactly the same shape. And so I just glued my new photo on top of my old photo, and that way it's already popped up. I have to admit, I don't like the color scheme of this packaging as much as the other color scheme was working a lot better with my page than this one does, but this is the actual face mask that she was using. So I'm going to use this one. And now I feel like I definitely want to do some journaling, and it needs to be over to the right of the face mask photo and below the days of the week die cut piece. And I'm just looking through, this is my drawer of journaling stickers. And so it has mostly labels and journaling spots and that sort of thing. And how old are these, you guys? Jilly Bean Journaling Sprouts. I don't know if Jilly Bean even makes these anymore. But these are a really old product from when I first started scrapbooking. I loved using journaling spots, and I bought a ton of these from Jilly Bean Soup. And I have lots left in my stash, even though I did use a lot of them. So I'm going to figure out how I'm going to work together some of these circles. Now, the challenge said at least one circle element, and so I'm using a whole bunch here. And these have a strawberry theme, so I'm going to try to arrange them so that I'm covering that up. I'm also going to use these, I believe these are Jen Hadfield as well, these label stickers. They came in a Scrapbook and Cards Today kit. And then these are Gossamer Blue labels that I bought. I forget where I bought them, but I love them. I really love them. I love them so much that I'm trying to not use them all up here. So you saw me cut that one trying to cheat and get away with using it twice, but then I put it back because I thought that I wasn't going to get away with that, but it turns out I'm going to be able to get rid of, like to reuse that side that's going to end up being covered up. So this is just me figuring out how to cover up things that aren't relevant and use up these really cute journaling spots that I've had in my stash for, oh my goodness, probably since 2010 or so. And so these are some of my oldest supplies because I just started scrapbooking in 2009. So, and now I'm going to add another small, like thinner label over here and another label over here. And I'm just going to straighten it out. And that doesn't look quite right, but I'm just going to leave it there for now and I'll deal with it later. And then I'll use the longer piece here. And I just want to overlap all these circles, but I don't want it to look so circular. So that's why I'm adding some of the more squared off labels just to balance off with all of those circles and add something that's a little bit more interesting than just circle, circle, circle. And layering some of these spots on top of one another is a really nice way to cover up the parts that are less relevant. Now, I wasn't planning on doing my journaling as a list, but because this ingredients list is so cute and enticing, I've decided to do my journaling instead of, Sophie has really been focusing on doing little things for herself lately. And one of the things is using facial masks, and she was really surprised that this one heated up and then it became her favorite. Instead, I decided to do my journaling. I can say the same message, but in a more interesting way by using this little numbered journaling tag. So my little items are, number 1 is self-care. Number 2 is facial masks. Number 3 is surprise, it heats up. Number 4 is Sophie reacts with glee. And number 5 is her new favorite. So that tells the story without being so cumbersome and boring. And now there's too much brown altogether here, so I need to break it up. And also the phrase on that just for you journaling spot is not really that. I mean, it's not in opposition to my story, but it's just not what I want to put there. So I'm going to put this other Jen Hadfield label sticker here. It picks up nicely with the shape of the other labels. It's not exactly the same, but it kind of picks up on the idea of an office label shaped label. And now I'm going to use that to stamp out my date. So I had to check the date. And that's what my arm is doing right now. My computer is just opposite where I scrapbook, so I can just reach across and access my computer really easily. And this is my Chamel roller date stamp because somehow when I moved scrap rooms, from the basement to up here, I lost my roller date stamp. Oh no, I didn't. I see it right now. I just moved it to the shelf above. I literally just looked up and saw it as I was saying that I lost it. Another benefit to making process videos. It forces you to sit here and look at your stuff. So these are another really old product that I have. They are Tim Holtz Chit Chat, and I bought these a long time ago before he was making the black and white ones. These are brown and white ones, or maybe he was making the black and white ones and I just only found the brown and white ones. But anyhow, I don't use brown all that often, so I haven't had a chance to use these even though they're pretty old. So I made an effort to really use plenty of these on this page. I mean, the white ones would have looked nice on this page, but because this layout gives me a chance to use the brown ones, I went with the brown ones. So I just grabbed random phrases. I chose embrace, inspire, capture, memories, cherish, and everyday and life. And those are the phrases I put on there. Now, I wanted to add a little bit of splatter because of the mixed media background. I'm just reusing some of the washi tape that I used to stick the mixed media down to my TriArt palette. And I'm covering up those words because I don't want to get splatters on them. And I don't love making splatter with a paintbrush, but this paintbrush was handy, so I'm just using it. It tends to make lines of splatters, and I don't like it lined up like that. But anyhow, it's fine. You have to embrace the randomness even when it's not as random as you'd like it to be. That's one of the parts of using splatter is you can't control where it goes. So there we go. And I'm just mentioning that the splatter looks really cool. I like how it sticks to different textures of paper differently. So it looks like it's different kinds of splatter, even though it's only one product. And that was just the Distress Oxide in the worn lipstick that I already used elsewhere on the page. So here I'm just talking about some of the design principles that I used. So I used repetition by repeating the labels and the butterflies. I used alignment by lining up some of the vertical elements. And now another repetition idea here is that I realized that there were no circles down in my secondary cluster. And so I wanted to have a circle there, but I couldn't find one. This journaling spot from Jilly Bean Soup is perfect. It coordinates so nicely with the other ones already on the page, but I just had to cut off the phrasing that was about strawberries and just tucked it in behind my butterfly. And my process video was already starting to upload to my computer, so that's why I did this on a different camera, just so I could stick it in at the end here so that you could see me adding the circle. And I fussed over it a little bit more than I probably needed to. So here is the final product, the photos of this one. This one was a lot of fun to make. It was so much fun to dip into my mixed media stash and to just go crazy with all those beautiful circles over on the right-hand side. There they are. And all the layering is it's so much fun to layer circles and rectangles together. They just look so beautiful together. And then those butterflies add that organic element. So pretty. There we go. So take care. At the end here, you will see an opportunity to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the comments that you guys leave me. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how you guys like to use up your scraps. I've been having a lot of fun using scraps. So give me any tips because I plan to make a couple of more layouts using scraps. So let me know what your favorite ways are and I'll try to incorporate them in an upcoming page. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.